everybody, this is Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff, and right now I'm taking a bit of a closer look at the Galaxy S5. Now yesterday I was at the Unpacked event and I made a little bit of an impressions video, although I know that my impressions of course would be a bit immature, not having very much time to play with the device. So now I want to take a better look at it, see what it offers, see if I can warm up to the device more. In my initial impression, I was a little bit disappointed. I think it's because I've been influenced by a lot of the rumors. There's been a lot of expectations around this particular device. So of course, it's going to fall short according to all the rumors. But if you were to see this device on paper, not considering anything else, such as the rumors, you'd probably think that this is a pretty nice device, minus the way it looks. Although who am I to say that it doesn't look so nice, right? It's kind of up to your opinion. It comes in 3 different colors. We've got a blue one, we've got a gold one. I can say that the gold one isn't so nice in appearance. We have a white one and also a black one. My favorite would be the black one. I'm going to take a look at those as well, all the different colors. So what have we got here? Well, physically we have a device that looks very similar to the Galaxy S4, although you can see that the Galaxy S5 is quite a bit bigger. It's got a little bit more bezel here on the top as well as on the bottom. I'm not so sure why they needed to make it so much taller. Possibly it has something to do with the waterproofing of the phone, which is a major question that I have. Now, a lot of you are familiar with the Galaxy S4 Active, and on the Galaxy S4 Active, in order to make that device waterproof, I think it would be more correct to say water resistant though, because this is IP67 certified, not exactly waterproof. But in order to make the Galaxy S4 Active water resistant, there is an O-ring here on the underside. And this O-ring is what's keeping the water from getting inside the internals. But my other question would be, after playing around with the Moto G and putting that device under water for 30 minutes, does this device have a nano coating just like the Moto G? Meaning that if this device was to become waterlogged, or if water was to get past this back cover, would it end up shorting out? Or would it simply act like the Moto G and just be pretty much fine after 30 minutes underwater? So that is a question that I have. I don't know how to answer that question in particular unless I try this myself, or I can just simply wait until I hear reports of waterlogging of this phone. Of course, it is nice though that you can put this device underwater or get it wet. So I really can't complain overall. In terms of button placement and the actual look at the device, we have the volume rocker in the exact same place. On the front of both of these, we have a 2.1 megapixel front-facing camera. We've got our ambient light sensor here, and we've got a charging and notification LED on the front. On the tops here, in a little bit different placement, we have the standard headphone jack. We've got the microphone. We've also got an infrared blaster so that you can use watch on and control your TV. On the side here, we have the power button in the exact same place. On the bottom here, we also have the microphone. And instead of it being a micro USB charging port down here on the bottom, it's now USB 3.0, which is a very nice feature. Now, in terms of the build quality and the design, yes, this is a device that's a little bit bigger than the Galaxy S4. It also feels a bit lighter as well. It still has that curved feeling and design of the Galaxy S4, but the one thing that I am not digging is the cheap look of this plastic chrome-like bezel. I think the brush metal finish of the Galaxy S4 looked a little bit more classy, but hey, what can you do about it, right? What I do like, though, is that the bezel does go up a little bit. It's up even a little bit more than on the Galaxy S4. This helps to protect your screen, so if you are to drop the phone, hopefully it's going to be less likely to crack the display. We all know and love Gorilla Glass 3. It does make scratches a teeny bit less apparent, and at least for me, it doesn't scratch as easily as the previous generations. But if you drop it, it's going to crack all the same, honestly. On the back, we have a 16 megapixel camera. We've also got a single LED flash, and we've got a heart rate monitor. Now, this is something that's quite odd to me. I was really hoping that we would have dual LED flashes with 2 different color flashes as to help with white balance correction, but that's definitely not present here. I'm not quite sure why Samsung decided to put a heart rate monitor right here, especially because they want you to pair this device with one of the new Gear watches, and the Gear watches have one as well. So this feature seems just a little bit odd, something that I'd probably show to my friends a few times, but it's not something that I would use all the time. It's not like I'm going to be running down the street holding my phone in my hand and checking my pulse. So this is something that's better left to one of the smartwatches, honestly. But hey, it's a cool feature. Show it off once or twice. But other than that, I don't think that people are going to use this. We've got a speaker here at the back. It's really in the same place as it is on the Galaxy S4. Now yesterday I had a chance to test it out, and it's actually quite a loud little speaker. It doesn't sound tinny. I actually feel like I have some bass coming out of this speaker. So I'm going to have to get one of these guys, test it out for myself, and see if that speaker really holds up as well as I think it's going to. Now, of course, on the front we have this home button that also doubles as a fingerprint sensor. Now, for me, I don't like the feeling of the home button as much as I do with the Galaxy S4. The Galaxy S4 has a very reassuring, clicky feedback to it. But if you can see here, the Galaxy S5 has to be raised just a little bit. That way you can rub your finger downward. It almost feels like the button isn't sitting correctly. And I'm not so satisfied with the clickiness of it. It's kind of a non-reassuring feeling. So it's an interesting new design, but I really would have preferred a type of button that the iPhone 5 has. So not to mention, this fingerprint scanner is not one where you can just simply place your finger and it will unlock the device. It's one where you need to place your finger on the display, as shown here, swipe downward, and it says to me, swipe the entire pad, so I find it's kind of gimmicky sometimes. See if I can get it to recognize my finger as it's supposed to. That, recognized, all right. At the same time, I pressed the home button and it pulled up S-Voice, so I hope that's something that's not a common occurrence, because it's very easy to press the home button at the exact same time. Okay, there we go. So maybe it's something that takes a little bit of tender loving care and practice, but it should just work. Now what you can do with this device and memorizing fingerprints is you can register up to 3 fingerprints. So I have registered my index finger and also my thumb. When you go outward, you can see underneath features, it says screen lock, so that would be my index finger. Verify Samsung account, just say I would use my thumb. And for using PayPal, I could use maybe whatever other fingers are left over, maybe one from the other hand. I really do wish that I saw more options underneath features, hopefully in the future, although I can't say anything about that. Hopefully we'll see something else underneath features, because while I would use screen lock, I honestly don't use PayPal too often, and I don't usually use Samsung. I have a Samsung account, but I honestly don't use Samsung accounts for much. So the only real thing here that I would practically use is the finger to unlock the screen. So that's a bit of a bummer for me. You can also add an alternate password. That would be something like a number code. So for example, if I was to lock myself out of my phone, if your finger is not recognized after several different times, it's going to ask you for your alternative password. 0000. So turning on the display, what we have here is a 1080p display. Yes, it's not 2K or really Quad HD is what people should be calling it. It's 1080p. It looks very sharp despite the fact that it's 5.1 inches, although 5.1 inches is really not a huge step up from 5 inches. So if anybody wanted to know if the pixel density is suffering because it's just a little bit bigger of a display, no, it's not at all. After all, they're using the exact same kind of arrangement on the Galaxy Note 3, and some people still think that that looks quite sharp. So in terms of the technology that they're using with this display, it's the same on the Galaxy S4. It's that diamond matrix pentile. So yes, this is a pentile AMOLED display. I'm going to zoom in so you can see really close, kind of pixel peep on the display. So yes, I am quite pleased with the display. It is very, very nice. Now, of course, because it's AMOLED, it's wide gamut, which means it can display a very large range of colors. Now, some people are going to like the pop of this AMOLED display and some won't. But like every other Samsung phone that I have seen, and the Galaxy S4, we do have screen mode. So you have Adapt Display, Dynamic, Standard, Professional Photo, and Cinema. Now, Cinema is going to be that movie mode that people argue that they really like, because it tends to emulate a smaller gamut. That way some things don't look so oversaturated. But my gripe with the cinema mode or the movie mode has always been that while yes, it does seem to make the gamut not as large, they're just essentially making everything less saturated, except for 100%. 100% of a certain saturation is going to stay at that. So I find that cinema mode looks kind of odd when looking at things around the launcher of the phone, because some things look very, very saturated, like 100% saturated red, and then you have other colors that are way less saturated, so it ends up giving me a bit of a headache, but still some people swear by it. So if you fancy changing around the display modes, you're free to do so. Now we've also got auto adjust screen tone here. which is basically like a dynamic contrast, messes around with the brightness and the contrast of the display, depending on what you're looking at, in an attempt to save battery life. Now, this is something that I would really like to test out because it seems that they have done a lot more with their adapt display mode and also with the auto-adjust screen tone than usual. So I wonder if we're going to get good behavior or if we're going to get something that looks really wonky. So we'll have to see if they implemented this properly. I really can't tell in this lighting, so that's something I'm going to have to do in the full review. Plus, of course, I have to do some measurements on the display and see what's really going on with it. Now, the viewing angles on this device are really nice. Really no different than what we had on the Galaxy S4. Now, what I'm showing now, I'm sure is impossible to see, but basically I'm looking at a gradient that goes from 21 down to 0. So it'll start at a gray, and then it goes darker, 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 all the way down in a gradient. And that just lets me see what's going on with the behavior of the display. One thing that I was able to see yesterday is that it does have a little bit of black clipping. That's something that I've been talking about for a while. So that means if you're watching a dark scene, instead of seeing that gradient where the shadows are going darker, darker, and darker until it's black, you end up with some details just being black instead. So you end up seeing kind of blotchy blacks in scenes. It ends up looking a little bit odd. So that's something that we are going to see on this device as well. Until I have a chance to really play with it, I won't know how bad it looks. But I can't say it will be any worse than what I've seen so far. Now, a thing that a lot of people are now pointing out and talking about is the fact that they finally have gotten rid of the menu button. The menu button that was always sitting right here for years and years and years is now gone. We still do have our back button in the exact same place. But instead what we have now is the task switcher. I think it's a little bit of a welcome improvement for that menu button to be gone now, because now, just like pretty much all the newer phones are these days, you've got your menu button here at the top right. So that menu button really was no longer needed. So I do applaud Samsung for that, although I find the placement to be a little bit odd and I do get confused here and there. So this is something I'm going to have to retrain myself to get used to. And if at this point you're questioning, well then how do I get the menu like I am able to do right here? You can do two different things. You can take your fingers, pinch, and there you are. This is essentially access to your menu. Or you can hold down, and it does the same thing. Now, this is Android 4.4.2. That's very nice to see here. And with Android 4.4.2, and also the fact that we no longer have that menu button, you may want to know how to make more panels. On this particular device, you can see you go to the end, and you can hit Add here. So you can add more panels that way. This layout reminds me a lot of what we had on the Nexus 5, especially with the settings down in here. And also like the Nexus 5, when you go to the right or pull the panel up from the left, you come up with Samsung's My Magazine. So that reminds me a lot of Google Now that you could pull up on the Nexus 5. Also from the home screen, you can say, "Okay, Google." I might have to pull it closer to my face. "Okay, Google." And you can see that it pulls up Google Now. So this really is KitKat 4.4.2. Now they have changed a little bit the design of TouchWiz. I'm not really sure how I'm liking it quite yet. It's a little bit flatter. What I'm noticing with the icons is that in addition to being more flat, they also aren't so sharp. So I wish that the icons were just a little bit sharper. It's really odd to see half the icons sharp and some of them not so sharp. It's kind of a weird contrast for me. Also underneath settings, this is supposed to be more simple. Everything has these little circles now instead of endless menus. This is going to take me a little bit of time to get used to. I know people who have already told me that they really like this, but right now I'm not liking it so much. But basically you've got quick settings and access to all your various things underneath quick settings. You've got network connections and everything that follows with network connections. Connect and share, sound and display, personalization, motion, user and backup, system. So all of this is in an effort to try to make it more simplistic so you're not searching through menus upon menus upon menus. So I'm sure this is going to work quite well for some people. Now, if you are curious about the heart rate monitor, we just have a sensor on the back. It kind of reminds me of an ambient light sensor. You have a sensor that flashes outward, and then you have a sensor that accepts the feedback back of that light bouncing backward. Now this technology, if you will, is nothing new. You can do this already with your Galaxy S4 with certain applications, and it works just as well in my opinion. So let's just show you how this works. You just essentially put your finger down here, hold it for several seconds, although I find this to be a little bit gimmicky because you need to hold your finger in the right way. You can't move and you can't talk either. I find that it takes many more seconds than I am willing to wait. Maybe that's just me being picky. You go ahead and place your finger there, and it's not wanting to read me. So it turns out that I was pressing just a little bit too hard, but you can see that the results are kind of varying. I get 77 beats per minute and then 92 beats per minute. So make of it what you will. Now, in terms of the system on chip, the processors, all that good stuff in this device, I'm not exactly sure which SoC this has. I'm not sure if it's the Snapdragon 800 or if it's the Snapdragon 801. That's something that has not been released yet. I do know that it has 2 gigabytes of RAM, not 3. So the Galaxy Note 3 has 3 gigabytes of RAM, and so does the new Z2 that was just released. Although I don't think the device is going to suffer with 2 gigabytes, I really do like having that extra gigabyte of RAM. So the CPU, it's quad-core CPU, 2.5 gigahertz measured speed. This device is really very smooth. The thing with Samsung devices that I've experienced pretty much every time I've had one is what people call S-lag. There's a lot of jank, a lot of lag here and there, and that's something that I have not been experiencing thus far. So this is indeed a very, very smooth experience. And that actually does get me excited. That's something that I really have not had. Also, I noticed that gameplay is really nice and smooth as well. I had a chance to play some Granny Smith. Now, while this isn't the most intensive game, this is a game that I tend to see has a lot of jitter issues on so many different ranges of devices, and it just plays very perfectly smooth on here. So in this way, this device is a pleasure to use. In real-world use, we're going to have to check it out once I get all kinds of applications and things on here. But so far, it's promising. Now, in terms of the battery, we've got a 2,800 milliamp hour battery inside this. I really do wish it was bigger. In the Sony Z2, we have a 3,200 milliamp hour battery, so it makes me a little bit juice jealous. But we'll really have to see how it stands up. You know, it could do just fine with the battery capacity that it has just now, and they have a power saving mode. You've got a normal power saving mode where you can limit things like background data and also the frequency of the GPU. And then you've got ultra power saving mode. When you put it into ultra power saving mode, the idea is if you are on very, very minuscule battery power, it's going to turn off everything pretty much, turn it into being just a black and white display, and it's only going to give you access to very little features. You can see here is the ultra power saving mode right now. I'm able to add some other applications other than what we saw here. It's a very limited list: calculator, chat on, clock, email, Gmail, memo, S-Planner, voice recorder. And so far, it looks like you can have a maximum of 6 applications that you're able to run. We've also got a settings tab. And then if you want to disable it, simply just hit disable. Say all right. Down here, it does give you an idea of the usage time, how much time you have left on this particular mode. Gives it a little bit of bragging rights. Now, underneath the regular power saving mode, get an idea of where the battery is at and how long it can last. You can see you're able to restrict background data, limit performance. You've got things such as CPU performance, screen output, turn off touch key light, turn off GPS. And also the fun thing here is that you can turn on the grayscale mode. So you're able to use it inside of this power saving mode and have everything in grayscale. So some people might get a little bit of a kick out of that. The thing is, as soon as you disable this power saving mode, the colors are going to come back, so you can't keep it this way indefinitely, although I don't really see a reason why you'd want to. As you might have seen in the presentation, we have a new setting that's called Download Booster. Basically, you're able to couple Wi-Fi and LTE, and you're able to use the bandwidth from both of those, so that's something that I'm interested to try out. It could be a really nice setting. So they're saying download large files of over 30 megabytes. So really, I'm very curious here. You see that is the symbol there. It has the 4G, and it's also got that lightning bolt. So you need to make sure that you have Wi-Fi on at the same time to have this working. So indeed, there's a lot of gimmicks on this phone, but I do see some potential and nice features here. We've also got a kids mode for small children. In order to exit out of it, you have to enter a PIN, so whatever parents set as a PIN. That way kids can't go and explore about the phone. There's very limited things here. I don't see too many options here, but you do have a really fun little app. In real time, you're able to add things like googly eyes. It recognizes your face, your facial features. So I do think that kids are going to have quite a bit of fun with this. So you can see you can add silly things like glasses, googly eyes, mouths. There is a nice scribbly drawing mode as well. Got a couple different pen tools and colors and erasers. I think that maybe ages up to 7 would get enjoyment out of this. Before moving on to the last thing that I want to look at, which is the camera, I do want to mention that I'm quite pleased to hear that there's so many LTE bands on this phone. I imagine that this is a phone that I could take with me to France because I do travel in Europe quite a bit. And I could go back to the United States and still have LTE there. That's really a treasured type of a feature. So that is really quite cool. And I hope others follow in this same footstep as well. So as I mentioned, we have a 16 megapixel camera. They did simplify the camera a little bit. Underneath mode here, I noticed that there's only a couple things, whereas before there used to be many more. You can hit the download button and add other applications from the Google Play Store. So we have things like auto mode, the beauty face mode, which I've always found to work quite well. Hides blemishes and such. Shot and more, panorama, virtual tour shot. This is something that I want to play with. It kind of creates a virtual tour. So instead of photosphere, they took it a step further and just made it into virtual tour. Kind of gimmicky, but really could be quite fun. Then we've got dual camera feature that we've seen already. They really have simplified things, such as if I go underneath shot and more, you can do various effects that were all underneath modes. They're all now added underneath here. So for example, let's just take my hand, move my fingers. It's going to take several shots or whatnot. It's going to do some processing here. And then it's going to give me several options. I have best photo, I can do best face, I can do eraser. So if anyone photobombed, it did take several pictures, so I can erase whatever it is that I don't want there. We've got a drama shot, and we've also got panning shot. I'm not sure how I feel about this and the way they simplified it. It's something that I would need to try out, but it's really a good idea to try to get things more concise and not so spread out. So going back underneath auto mode, we've got several things here. Still a very simple layout. You're able to switch to the front-facing camera. We've got a selective focus mode here, which allows you to get a kind of a bokeh effect. You can have one thing in focus and have it blurred in the background. I had a chance to check it out. I think that the processing does pretty well. You've also got a really nice HDR effect now. I would really like a chance to play with this. In terms of settings underneath here, the highest we can select is 16 megapixels. You can see we've got several other different aspects and configurations. We've got burst shot mode, picture stabilization on. Now that's something that I want to talk about. This does have the ability to have UHD recording or 4K recording. The only thing that I'm noticing is that there is no video stabilization. Right now it is in Ultra HD recording. So that's a little bit unfortunate because on the Note 3, anytime you would take 4K video, anytime you were filming, it just wasn't stable, and I found it to not be so useful. So it's a little bit of a shame that they don't have the video stabilization for this. That's something that the Z2 does have. I will have to take some samples with the Z2 to see if it's any kind of effective as it is. But that does bum me out a little bit. So for HDR, you can also use it in video. It's an HDR that you can keep always on, so I think that that's a nice feature. A really nice thing that we have here is a very fast autofocus. It's supposed to take 0.3 seconds to get a focus here. Galaxy Gear. Maybe not in terms of macro focus, but you can see that that's pretty quick. Looking at my hand, and boom, it's in focus. So this is something else that I need to test out in practice. So you can see that there's a lot of neat things going on with this device. I really do want to get one into my hands so I can take some time to do a review. So at first glance, I'm a little bit disappointed that it's lacking in some of the features, but that could be because I've been primed because of the rumors. But overall, it's really not a bad device. I do want to give it a chance. And after all, I do think that all of the top features that we're waiting for are probably going to make it into the Galaxy S4, so I'm not going to be too sad just yet. So thank you everybody for watching. This has been Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff. I will be getting one of these for a full in-depth hour-long review. I will probably be picking the black one. I'm going to be here at MWC for a few more days. Please check the link in the description. I have my Google Plus. I post everything on Google Plus these days. So if you want to know what I'm doing or what's going on, especially at MWC, please make sure to check the link in the description for my Google Plus. I will be back with you all soon with more on this device.